Okay, let's unpack this. We use incredibly complex tech every single day.
Yeah, totally. Like streaming video or making a call across the globe. We don't even think about it.
Exactly. We don't need to know the algorithms behind it to watch a cat video. And mostly, that's fine.
It works. No need to pop the hood.
But what happens when that tech isn't just, convenient? What if it's a financial asset, a huge one worth over $1 trillion globally?
Like Bitcoin.
Precisely. Bitcoin. It's aiming to reshape money, ownership, all these massive concepts, yet how it actually works, it seems like it's still a bit of a black box.
Not just for the general public either, which is maybe understandable.
That's the kicker. Even for people who use it, who own it, that's the core paradox we're diving into today.
This knowledge gap.
Yeah, this massive knowledge gap in crypto. We've got some really interesting new surveys to look at, one from Go Mining, the Bitcoin mining platform, and another from Gallup.
Good sources. They should give us a solid picture.
They really do. They show just how deep this misunderstanding runs, where the confusion really lies, and importantly, what its impact is, on adoption, security.
And maybe how to fix it.
Yeah.
What people actually want to learn.
Exactly. That's our mission today. Dissect the gap, pinpoint the problems, understand the consequences, and figure out what kind of education people are actually asking for.
Sounds good.
And look, this matters for you, listening. Whether you're deep into crypto, just curious, or even just interested in how tech gets adopted.
Or doesn't get adopted.
Right. This gives you a shortcut to understanding a really fundamental bottleneck. It's not just tech talk. It could genuinely shape the future of this whole space.
Okay, let's get into it.
All right, so let's jump straight into the numbers, starting with that Go Mining survey. This wasn't just random people they talked to, over 2,600 Bitcoin users. People in North America and Europe actively involved.
Right, so people you'd expect to have some grasp.
You'd think.
Yeah.
But here's the headline finding. More than 70%, 70, admitted they do not feel confident explaining how Bitcoin actually works.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot.
It's huge. A vast majority of users of $1 trillion asset lacking fundamental confidence in understanding it. That's, well, it's something.
It really is. It's not just a few newbies getting tripped up. This is widespread.
And when they dug into those confidence levels, it got even clearer. Only about a third, 34%, felt very confident about the whole Bitcoin ecosystem.
Only a third, okay.
But then, ask them to explain it to someone else. Forget about it. Only 9.6%, less than 1 in 10, felt they could explain it to a friend and sound like a pro.
Oh, that's low.
Really low. And on the other side, almost 2/3, 66.3%, said they either just got the basics or honestly wouldn't know what to say.
So they're holding it, maybe trading it, but they can't really articulate what it is or how it functions?
Exactly. It's like driving a car but having no idea how the engine works, except this car holds a chunk of your savings. It feels precarious.
Yeah, precarious is a good word.
Yeah.
And the implications of that, especially among active users, are pretty significant, aren't they? The source called it emotional friction.
Emotional friction.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Well, think about it. If you own Bitcoin, but don't grasp how it's secured, how transactions work, what mining actually does, or even how your wallet keeps it safe. Every news headline about a price swing or a hack or some new regulation, it probably generates a lot of anxiety, right? It's not just about the money. It's this feeling of not really understanding something valuable you possess.
Like a low-level hum of worry in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That friction, that discomfort, it doesn't just make people anxious. It actively slows participation, as the source puts it.
How so?
Well, you might hesitate to actually use your Bitcoin, right? Make transactions, try out related apps or services, maybe even just hold it long-term if you're constantly unsure.
Right. You stick to what feels safest, which might be just holding and hoping rather than engaging.
Precisely. And that then raises a big question. What happens to a decentralized network like Bitcoin when most of its users don't deeply understand it?
Good question.
Because Bitcoin's strength is supposed to come from that distributed network, from informed participants. If users are hesitant, if they can't explain it or advocate for it properly, if they're more easily swayed by FUD or scams because they don't get the basics,
It weakens the whole foundation.
it potentially does. And the surveys point to why people are confused. Respondents mention things like conflicting online information.
Oh yeah, the crypto internet can be a mess.
It really can. And also frustration over the technical nature of crypto education. It's either too hypey, too simple, it's useless, or just way too dense and technical.
Finding that sweet spot of clear, accurate, accessible information seems really tough.
It's a huge challenge. It's like trying to learn physics from forum posts and memes sometimes.
Okay, so we know there's a big gap and we know it causes this emotional friction.
Yeah.
Let's map it out. Where are people actually getting stuck? What are the specific concepts tripping them up?
Yeah, the Go Mining survey pinpointed some key areas.
And they're pretty fundamental things, right? Not
Yeah.
just obscure details.
Absolutely. Top of the list, maybe surprisingly, maybe not, 28.2%, nearly a third, said they just didn't understand how Bitcoin mining works.
Mining, okay, that's core. That's literally how Bitcoin is created and secured.
Exactly. It's the engine room. It verifies transactions, adds them to the blockchain, makes the whole thing secure through proof of work. If you don't get mining, you're missing a huge piece of the puzzle about security, scarcity, everything.
Right. Okay, what was number 2?
Number 2, cited by 26.5%, was uncertainty about when to buy or sell Bitcoin.
Ah, the $1 million question. Or maybe the $100,000 question, depending on the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This isn't strictly a tech issue, but it's about practical engagement. It shows a gap in investment literacy specifically for crypto, which is, let's face it, a different beast.
Very volatile, yeah. People want guidance, but it's hard to find reliable strategies.
For sure. And the third main pain point, 22.2% pointed to technical terms, the jargon.
Oh, the jargon. HODL, DeFi, NFTs, gas, halving, keys, seeds. It's like a whole other language.
It really is.
Yeah.
And each term represents a concept that, if you don't grasp it, can leave you feeling lost or even make you vulnerable.
So, mining, market timing, and technical jargon. Those are the big 3 hurdles identified.
And these aren't minor things. They're fundamental to engaging safely and effectively.
Let's dig into those a bit more. Why mining specifically? Why is that so tough for people?
Well, I think fundamentally it is technical. It involves cryptography, network consensus, energy. It's not intuitive. Miners are essentially the network's accountants and security guards, solving complex puzzles to validate transactions and earn new Bitcoin.
That process, proof of work, is what makes it secure, right? Because it takes so much computing power.
Exactly. It makes tampering with the blockchain incredibly difficult and expensive. But explaining how that works, the hashing, the difficulty adjustments, it gets complicated fast.
And if people don't understand it, what's the knock-on effect?
Well, their perception of Bitcoin security might be shaky. They might not grasp why it's decentralized or tamper-resistant. They might have weird ideas about scarcity if they don't understand the supply limit or the halving events.
Right, the programmed reduction in mining rewards.
Yeah, they might think Bitcoin is just made up or that mining is just wasting energy without seeing its crucial role in security and validating everything.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the when to buy or sell issue? That seems less technical, more financial.
It is, but it points to a real need for better investment literacy in this specific space. Bitcoin's volatility is legendary, and traditional valuation methods don't always apply neatly.
So people are looking for market timing advice, which is notoriously difficult even in traditional markets.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating here is it shows the need isn't just for technical explanations, but for practical guidance on market analysis, risk management, things specific to crypto assets.
And without that understanding.
You get hesitation. People sit on the sidelines unsure. Or the opposite, they jump in based on FOMO, fear of missing out, or panic sell when prices dip. That's where real financial harm can happen.
Driven by emotion rather than understanding.
Precisely. And finally, the technical terms. The jargon barrier.
It's everywhere. Is it just that the industry uses too much jargon, or are the concepts themselves just inherently complex?
I think it's a bit of both, honestly. The concepts are new. They represent different ways of thinking about finance and computing, decentralization, cryptographic keys, consensus mechanisms. These aren't everyday ideas, but the way they're often communicated assumes a level of technical background that most people just don't have. Even active users, as the survey showed, struggle with basics, like supply limits or how wallets work.
So it's not just the words, it's connecting them to how things actually function and why it matters for their security, for instance.
Exactly. It's about demystifying the how and the why, not just defining the what. That barrier keeps people out or keeps them feeling insecure even when they're in.
Okay, so these gaps aren't just like intellectual curiosities. They have real-world consequences.
Huge consequences.
We touched on the emotional friction slowing things down, but what does it really mean for, say, mainstream adoption?
Well, the Go Mining source was pretty direct about it. They basically said, unless education becomes more accessible, adoption will continue to stall, even if prices keep rising.
Wow. So price isn't enough. Even record highs won't guarantee adoption if people don't get it.
Apparently not. Price can create buzz, sure, it gets attention. But for genuine, sustainable adoption, people actually using Bitcoin, integrating it, trusting it long term, you need understanding.
Otherwise, it just remains a speculative asset for many, not a foundational technology.
Exactly. It hits a ceiling based on comprehension, not just market cap.
And beyond adoption, what are the other risks? You mentioned the security threats earlier.
Yeah, this is critical. The source highlights that users who don't understand how Bitcoin works are simply more susceptible to scams, hacks, and other security threats.
How specific?
Think about private keys or seed phrases. These are the absolute core of self-custody. If you don't understand what they are, why they must be kept secret, why you should never share them or type them into a random website.
You're an easy target for phishing or scams.
Precisely. People lose their life savings because they clicked a bad link or got tricked by social engineering, fundamentally because they didn't grasp this security model they were operating within.
Which raises a deeper question, doesn't it? Can you really give informed consent to use a system you don't understand?
That's a fantastic point. If the technology is a mystery, are users really making informed choices about security, about risk, about who they trust? Or are they just following advice blindly, which kind of defeats the purpose of decentralization?
Yeah, that's a bit paradoxical. And what about the bigger picture, the industry itself? You mentioned institutional interest growing.
Right, and that creates this really interesting, almost bizarre contrast. You have major financial institutions launching complex products like Bitcoin ETFs, doing sophisticated analysis.
Big money, serious players.
Yeah, and at the same time, you have a large chunk of the individual user base, the supposed foundation of this peer-to-peer system, struggling with what is mining.
That's quite the disconnect.
It really is. You're building this complex financial superstructure on potentially shaky ground in terms of user understanding. It feels top-heavy.
And does that user understanding matter for the network itself, beyond individual security?
Absolutely crucial, according to the source. Bitcoin security isn't just code. It relies on decentralized consensus, active participation, the vigilance of its users.
So if users don't get why decentralization is important or how the network stays secure,
They might not support measures that maintain it. They might not run nodes. They might fall for misinformation that could undermine the network. An informed user base is critical for the long-term health, security, and integrity of Bitcoin. It's a collective responsibility, in a way.
okay, so the problem is clear, the consequences are serious. What about solutions? Did the surveys offer any hope on how to bridge this gap?
Yes, definitely. The Go Mining survey specifically asked people how they prefer to learn about this stuff. And the answers give a pretty clear roadmap.
What came out on top?
Very practical stuff. The number one request, from 36.6%, was for step-by-step guides.
Okay, makes sense. People want the how-to.
Exactly. Followed closely by 33.4% wanting real-world case studies.
So seeing it in action, not just abstract theory.
All right, make it relatable. And then 30.8% asked for short explainer videos.
Visual digestible content. Checks out.
So it paints a clear picture. Practical, relatable, visual learning is what people want.
Now, you mentioned something interesting earlier. Only about 26% wanted simple, non-technical explanations. That seems odd, given the jargon problem.
It does seem counterintuitive at first, yeah. But maybe it suggests people don't want things oversimplified to the point where they lose the substance.
Like they want clarity, but not so dumbed down it doesn't actually help them do anything or understand the why.
Exactly. They want digestible depth. Clear explanations, sure, but ones that provide enough real understanding of how things work and why they matter, not just vague definitions. It's about building competence, not just awareness.
That's a really important nuance. So, step-by-step guides, case studies, videos. Why do those formats work so well for this kind of complex topic?
Well, step-by-step guides directly address that need for actionable knowledge. People want to know how to set up a wallet, how to secure their keys, how to make a transaction safely. Guides provide that clear pathway.
Builds confidence through doing.
Precisely. And real-world case studies. They make abstract ideas concrete. Learning about proof of work is one thing. Seeing a case study of how it prevented a fraudulent transaction makes it stick. It provides the why it matters.
Gives context and relevance.
Yeah, those aha moments. And short videos are just great for breaking down complex processes visually. You can show how a transaction moves through the network or animate how a wallet works. Much easier to grasp for many people than text.
So, thinking about that simple explanations paradox again, maybe The industry needs to rethink how it simplifies.
I think so. It's not about avoiding technical concepts entirely, but explaining them clearly, in context, showing their practical relevance. Demystify, don't just gloss over. Translate the complexity into actionable understanding.
Give people the tools to actually understand and engage safely.
Exactly. And the survey pointed a finger directly at exchanges and platforms, suggesting they could play a huge role here.
By providing education directly where users are interacting.
Yeah. If the place you buy your Bitcoin also offers clear, unbiased guides and explainers, that builds enormous trust and confidence.
Transparency fosters trust. Makes sense.
And that trust, built on understanding, is probably the key driver for broader adoption and acceptance, moving it beyond just speculation. It's about empowering users.
Okay, so that's the picture for users. But what about everyone else? The general public. That's where the Gallup data comes in, right?
Right. It gives us that wider view of public perception and engagement, or lack thereof.
Oh. And the big headline there was pretty stark, wasn't it?
Yeah, 60% of Americans said they have no interest in buying cryptocurrency. 6-0.
Wow. Despite all the hype, all the news cycles, a solid majority are just not interested.
Pretty much. Completely on the sidelines.
And what about the rest? Were they eager to jump in?
Not really. You had 17% who were kind of intrigued but not planning to buy soon. Another 6% were unsure or didn't know anything. And only a tiny 4% plan to buy in the near future.
So outside that 60% uninterested, you've mostly got passive curiosity or ignorance and very few active potential buyers.
That's the picture. The vast majority are disengaged. It really highlights the scale of the challenge for mainstream adoption.
So how does that square with the fact that ownership has been rising? Gallup said around 14% of Americans or 17% of investors own some crypto now.
It shows that adoption is happening. It's up from single digits a few years ago, but it's clearly not translated into broad public enthusiasm or interest yet. There's growth, but it's concentrated, and there's this huge block of skepticism or indifference.
Did Gallup track whether that skepticism is changing, the never own figure?
They did. In 2025, 64% of investors said they expect they'll never own crypto. Now, that's actually down from 72% in 2018, so some resistance has softened.
Okay, a slight improvement.
But it's up from 58% in 2021, so it fluctuates, but remains a very large number. It suggests that hurdle of skepticism is still very significant.
Not a straight path to acceptance at all. What about who owns crypto currently? Did the demographics show anything interesting?
Yeah, pretty clear patterns. Ownership is much higher among men aged 18 to 49. 25% own some, versus only 12% of those 50 and older.
A definite age gap. Younger people are more comfortable with it.
Seems so. Also higher among upper-income Americans, political conservatives, and college graduates, around 19% for each of those groups.
So the typical early adopter profile for new tech, perhaps, more resources, maybe higher risk tolerance or tech literacy?
It aligns pretty well, yeah. Which also means if the goal is mass adoption, crypto needs to find ways to appeal beyond these initial groups, addressing different needs and comfort levels.
And the most telling stat maybe was awareness versus actual knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. Huge gap there. Nearly everyone, 95% of Americans, has heard of cryptocurrency. Awareness is basically universal.
Okay, so people know it exists.
But only 35% feel they know something about it.
Right.
And a whopping 60% admit they've heard of it but don't know much about it at all.
Awareness isn't understanding. Back to square one.
Exactly. It perfectly reinforces the core point.
Yeah.
People recognize the name, but they haven't crossed the bridge to actual comprehension or engagement. And that raises a big question.
How do you reach that huge group, the aware but uninformed and, frankly, uninterested majority?
Yeah, it's not just about providing information anymore. It's about motivating people to even seek it out when they're currently indifferent. That's a whole different challenge.
Okay, so bringing these two threads together, Go Mining showing deep confusion among users, and Gallup showing widespread disinterest and lack of knowledge among the public.
It paints a picture of a dual challenge.
Right. The industry needs to, 1, educate its existing users much better so they can participate safely and confidently.
Turn them from passive holders into informed participants.
And 2, somehow attract, inform, and build trust with this massive, skeptical mainstream audience.
It's a huge undertaking on both fronts. Education inside and outreach plus education outside.
So, summing it all up, the path forward seems heavily reliant on Education, transparency.
That's the core conclusion, echoing the sources. Investing in education and transparency is presented as the way to ensure Bitcoin, and crypto more broadly, can thrive and evolve in a responsible and sustainable manner.
And why is that investment so critical? It's not just about pumping the price.
No, it's far more fundamental. First, it leads to more informed investment decisions, reducing irrational behavior and potential losses. Second, it's vital for the security and integrity of the network itself. An informed user base is a stronger defense,
And third,
building trust and confidence. People trust what they understand. And trust is the absolute foundation needed for any financial system, especially a disruptive one, to gain widespread legitimacy and use.
so if the industry actually delivers on what users are asking for, those guides, case studies, clear videos, what could that future look like?
You could see a real shift. Maybe Bitcoin moves from being primarily this niche, speculative thing to something more integrated, understood, maybe even trusted by a much wider audience.
An ecosystem where users feel competent and secure.
Imagine that. More resilient, less driven by pure hype cycles, maybe more genuinely decentralized because people understand how to participate and why it matters. It could mature significantly.
And it really ties into that bigger theme, doesn't it? How we navigate complex information in general these days.
Absolutely. This whole situation is kind of a microcosm of that challenge. Critical thinking, the ability to find reliable information, to understand complex systems, it's essential everywhere. And crypto just makes it really obvious. It highlights the need for accessible education in our increasingly complex technological world.
What a fascinating journey through this knowledge gap. It's clear, isn't it? The future success and responsible growth of crypto isn't just about the tech or the market cap. It really comes down to people users, the public understanding it and engaging with it in an informed way.
That bridge of understanding absolutely has to be built. Carefully, thoughtfully.
Leaves us with a big question, perhaps.
Well, yeah, it makes you wonder. As our lives get more tangled up with these complex digital systems, whether it's crypto, AI, whatever comes next, does the burden fall more on us as individuals to skill up and understand them? Or is it really on the innovators, the creators, to make their inventions truly understandable, truly transparent for everyone? Where does that responsibility ultimately lie?
That's a really powerful thought to leave things on, something that definitely applies way beyond just Bitcoin. So for everyone listening, what stands out to you from today's deep dive? How does this knowledge gap resonate with your own experiences with new tech? Definitely something to chew on.